What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV back here for another Tottenham update in a sweltering day in the heat in London. You're having a nice weekend, Tim? Nice and good weather,
Loved
isn't it?
Great weather. Was in town earlier. Had a nice coffee. And if there's anything, I'm going to have a barbecue later. Enjoying the weather while I can.
Absolutely. I've been out in the parks with iced coffees as well, having a good time. But anyway, a bit of news to talk about. Paul O'Keefe has given an interesting update regarding investment into the club. He says that Tottenham are in talks with MSP Sports Capital for potential investment that could result in a stake in the club worth up to 40% to the US group. He also says that there are around 5 or 6 different groups having held talks or are currently in talks with Daniel Levy and ENIC regarding investment. This MSP Sports Capital, they were linked with us. I mean, there were rumours, weren't there, about 6 months or in the last 12 months around them as Jam Najafi, I think his name is. And they have current stakes in Brøndby in Denmark, Augsburg in Germany, Estoril in Portugal. They've also got big stakes in McLaren in F1. And they also got the Phoenix in the NBA as well, which they've got big stakes in. Not much I can tell you. I mean, in terms of football clubs that they have, none of them doing particularly well apart from Brøndby, which, you know, one of the biggest teams in Denmark. But any thoughts on it?
Are any of them spending any money? Those teams can tell me. Yeah, I think this is what a lot of fans have been calling for. Obviously, have a bit of investment, have another voice in the room, so it's not just Daniel Levy. But sometimes it's difficult to know whether it's good or not. Sometimes the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know in a lot of cases. So it's hard to comment too much unless we do a deep dive into exactly what their philosophy is and how, you know, are they just going to be very similar to Daniel Levy in terms of how they approach things, or are they is this investment going to allow us to, you know, go and spend big on in the short term? I doubt that very much, to be honest. I don't think it'll be a massive change in policy with the investment, but it could bring a bit of extra funds in the short term, potentially to loosen the purse strings a little. But I don't see getting the investment being like a complete 180 switch in how operate, in my opinion.
So I saw a comment on social media saying that MSP Sports Capital are basically the American versions of ENIC.
Oh, there you go. They like the look of each other. Probably, I would say they probably see what ENIC are doing and say maybe we can get a piece of that guaranteed money, big stadium revenue, the concerts. They probably want a piece of that. I don't think they're interested in looking at Tottenham and saying, "Oh, we need them to win a trophy." They're probably looking at Tottenham saying, "Look all the money that they're making. Let's invest in it." Probably make even more money, get more concerts, get more NFL things there. That's probably what thing they're thinking about, rather than let's get this team winning leagues, which I'm sure is obviously not a bad thing. I'm sure if they can do it, they will. But I don't think they're going to start spending hundreds of millions on players all of a sudden just by investing. But also I'm not saying then it's going to mean, you know, we're not going to spend any money, because under ENIC, you see, when we need, like we do spend money, we have spent money if we don't really need it, like on Van der Ven, Maddison, 40 million, and we have spent here and there. But whether it's going to change a policy of, like, you know, are we going to go and get a Declan Rice for 100 million? I doubt this kind of thing is going to change that.
Yeah, which is frustrating, because I feel like that's what Spurs need to really move the goalpost and really get closer to the Man Cities and the Arsenals. We need to be shopping at top talent at the top table, which we're not really doing at the moment. But there are a few different ways that you can do it and can get there, and hopefully that you know, we can take some routes and get close to the clubs this summer. Let's talk about potential transfers. Ali Gold's talking about Oliver Skipp. He says that Ollie Skipp is keen to head out of Tottenham to get regular game time, but in order for the club to be able to sanction a move, they would have to find a way to absorb his loss as a club-trained, homegrown player. I mean, I'm not quite sure what he means by that.
Well, we're going to have to make up for it somehow. Whether that means we're promoting a different player, youth player. Obviously, if it's club trained,
about Marcus Edwards, is that maybe why that's come to light?
Maybe that's. I think that's the only reason why that would be a possibility, is because of this kind of issue. It's interesting. It's the first kind of, as much as we've been interested potentially in him leaving, and there's obviously, given that he's down the pecking order, it's no surprise that Tottenham are interested in letting him go. It's the first time we've maybe heard it reported that he would be very willing to go at this point. Obviously, being a Tottenham homegrown player, after being talked up so early in his career by, you know, some big managers, obviously it looked like his career his future was destined to be at Tottenham. It looked like he was going to be an R player for a long, long time. So it is a shame it has come to this. It looks like Tottenham are happy to let him go, and also looks like he's given up on his dream of being a long-term future Tottenham potential captain or future Tottenham player, which is sad because the player that broke in the team looked like a real top prospect, and looked like he looked very mature for his age in terms of how he was playing. But unfortunately, those injuries, I think, probably ruined it a bit for him, and he stagnated quite badly, and he never really got back to his best and hasn't really shown what he's capable of, I feel, in the past year.
I'm not sure if it's a quality issue, to be honest. I think it's just a right fit for the system. I think he can go to another Premier League club and make a really good name for himself. I still think he's a really good player. Obviously, the excitement has kind of waned since those injuries and everything like that. And Ange Postecoglou has come in, and he hasn't really got a look in. But I do think he can go to another Premier League club and make a really good career for himself. He's definitely a Premier League player, 100%.
Definitely. It's just a shame it's come to it where we're looking at him go. I do feel like if he got on, I know he had a good run at the back end of last season, but then Spurs were a bit of a mess. I feel like under Ange, he never had a run in the team, did he? I feel like if he was given a run just to get his confidence back, get back to his best, maybe it could have been different. But unfortunately, he never got that luxury. We have a lot of good players in midfield. And I know even though none of them really nailed down a first team spot, he didn't exactly do much when he got into the team to nail down that spot as much as the others didn't as well. So I can't really complain too much that he didn't get some game time. I do think he definitely, a team like a Palace would be a perfect fit for him, and Everton, I can see him going somewhere like that. I think he's a good player, and whoever is signing him are getting a potentially good player, but they might need to be a bit patient, I feel, when they do sign him, because I feel like maybe straight away he's still going to be a bit rusty like he has been for a bit. But I think once he gets into his rhythm, I think there's clearly a very good player, and a player that hasn't shown anywhere near his best is only going to get better, I feel, as well. So It's a shame it's not going to be at Tottenham if it is the case this summer. We'll have to wait and see. Nothing's foregone conclusion, but it sounds like we want to get rid of him, and it sounds like he wants to leave. And when both of those things align, usually one thing happens.
Yeah, the issue I have with selling Skipp and bringing in a Marcus Edwards, it just clogs up a spot in the attacking areas, which we just don't need to clog up. And I think that goes back to your point of what we were talking about with Timo Werner. Like, if we knew of this situation was going to arise and we needed to sell Skipp, and then we're going to bring Marcus Edwards to caveat that with a homegrown player, there was just literally no point for Timo Werner whatsoever. You sign Marcus Edwards for 10-15 million, and then you go get a really good another addition in the winging options.
100% agree. And even Werner, even if you still wanted to sign him, you could have waited a bit even just to see what the market is. So I don't know why they've rushed into this deal. They've done it now. Let's see if they're serious about Marcus Edwards. If they've not, I'm not sure how they overcome the problem unless they include some of our homegrown players, I guess, club trained players. But they have to have been over 18, trained by the club over 3 years. No, trained by the club for 3 years. So I don't know who we have there, because Sarr apparently doesn't count because he went out on loan. So I don't know who we've had over 3 years who's club trained.
Well, if you go out on loan, it doesn't count? I thought it does count if you go out on loan.
Apparently it doesn't count as club trained, apparently.
I mean, anyone from the academy would count as club trained, wouldn't they?
If they have to have been there 3 years. I guess so. I'm not 100% sure how it works. How it works. I have to look. I think you have to have 4 of those players though. So
in Europe, not in the Premier League.
In Europe, yeah. So we'll have to look into exactly how we can fix that issue if Skipp leaves.
Maybe we'll do a deep dive into it and do a separate segment on it on another video and see what we actually need going into next season. Next up, let's talk about Eberechi Eze once again. A lot of kind of fifth-rate ITKs are talking about it, and various Twitter accounts that talks about transfers are going on about it, saying that Tottenham are expected to initiate discussions with Crystal Palace regarding a deal for Eberechi Eze. The winger has a gentleman's agreement with the South London club to let him leave this summer, which might play into a bit of the narrative why Spurs were whining in and dining him at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium when we played Palace in the, March time.
Yeah, exactly. And let's hope that is true. Obviously, I'm desperate for Eze. I'm desperate to have that kind of quality in the team. I think he would improve us so much. I think he's been unbelievable since Glasner took over. I think even without Glasner, to us, under Hodgson, I thought he was unbelievable. I think he would fit in right with the squad. I think he's the right character. He seems to have a really good mentality about him. I think he's a good fit. I saw an opinion from God, what's his name? There's a Palace fan on Twitter. I can't remember. He's quite big on TikTok.
Talk CPFC or something, I think his
Maybe
name is.
him. And he said having Eze with an inverted fullback as a touchline winger is a complete waste of what he brings. And I do think there is some truth to that. I don't really
He's so good
see
in those central areas.
Yeah, he likes to cut in a lot. I think that's why I see him at his best. I don't really see Eze on the left wing even if I'm watching Match of the Day highlights or I'm just watching him in general. Like his best work doesn't usually come out wide on the left. Like I think Zaha did a lot of that good work. That's where he was at his best. Zaha on the wing when he had that space. Eze, whenever I'm seeing him doing well or doing things positive for the team, it's always a bit central. It's always like in that half space between the left hand side of the corner of the penalty area and like the D, like that kind of space. Yeah. That's where he kind of operates at his best. So I do have a few reservations. I think he can do that job on the out wide on the left. I just think he's that good. I think he's got like the pace and quality and trickery to do it. But he's going to have to adapt his game a bit to do that at Tottenham. He's going to be a full-time kind of left winger. So
I think he'll play many roles at Tottenham. You know, James Maddison gets his injuries every year, you know, so he'll play the number 10 when James Maddison gets injured. Also, do you think there's a case that maybe they can play together in the midfield when we're playing against low blocks? Maybe Maddison in the 8 and Eze in the 10. So I think that it gives us a lot of different variations that we can play with Eze.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not saying it can't work. I'm just saying it's not a completely stupid worry or concern to have about that potential move. But when a player like Eze is there, I feel like he's just that good. He can do anything you ask him to do. Like he's that kind of good of a player. I think some players are only good at certain things. I look at Eze and I think he can do whatever. If you ask him to do something else, he can do it. So I've got no worries about him really.
Yeah. Can he play on the right wing?
I think he can, but I think he'd be a bit wasted there. But I think he probably could do a job if you're desperate. I haven't really seen him again play on the right wing, and I think the way he plays, as in, I don't really see him cutting too much on his left, and then you're wasting. I think you are wasting a bit if you're asking always to go outside on the right on his right all the time, and just play like Brennan. That's a waste of his kind of talents, but maybe he can do it.
All right. Well, I mean, if we were to bring him in, it definitely gives a much better outlook of the window and maybe the direction that we're going in if we can get an Eberechi Eze, and that's for sure. Next up, we're going to talk about a player called Daniel Kelly, recorder, claiming that Tottenham have entered the race to sign Celtic prospect Daniel Kelly by Leverkusen, and Man United are amongst other clubs who are interested in the player. To be honest, before I'd done this video, I haven't heard of him before, but he plays for Celtic B at the moment. He's 18 years of age, Scotland under-19 international, and he's been playing around the kind of central midfield, defensive midfield role. So that's where he's at. Well, actually, attacking midfield as well. So I think he's very versatile inside the midfield areas.
And how old is he?
18.
18. And how many appearances he made for Celtic?
Celtic first team 6.
6. So very early on, really. So, I mean, for me, yeah, sure. I'm happy our starting prospects when we have our own 18-year-old in Tyrese Hall, who seems to play a similar position. It seems, no. If we're giving chances, I'd rather give it to him. But if this guy is such a talent that we really believe it would be silly not to go for him, and he's going to be that good, then yeah, let's go for it and let's give him a chance. I guess
they're actually already scored for Celtic.
Huh?
He's already scored for Celtic.
That's good. That's a positive sign.
He scored against Dundee in a 7-1 win, where he played only 45 minutes in the game. Which is interesting. That was obviously this season gone, but it says that he played 6 games, but I can only see he's only played 4 games in the SPL. I think the other games came in the Cups. And the games where he played in the SPL were all like towards the end of the season. So maybe they'd already won the league by then. I'm not sure. So
I'm not sure. Yeah, but I hope we'll see. I'm not a massive fan in like just buying loads of talent when we have our own talent to give a chance to, like if we can. But I'm also not against buying great talent if we really believe they're going to have a massive future. And even if it comes at a cost at our own talent we're producing, if they're better, they're better. And that's it. So
it feels like we're trying to do that old Chelsea thing, just buy up all the best teenagers from around like Europe and around England. And
Chelsea, yeah, they had a good thing, didn't they? Because either they sold them for good money or they used them. and it's a really good way of operating.
Mm.
I guess we should also mention Troy Parrott, currently on a hat trick.
Yeah, I was going to mention him. They were 6-2 down from the first leg, which means they needed to win by 4 goals to take it to extra time. They are 4-1 up. They went 4-0 up after 50 minutes. Troy Parrott scoring a hat trick, 2 goals in the first half, 1 goal in the second half. I saw his first goal, really nice finish into the far corner with a little dink.
Another dink. He's getting good at those things, isn't he?
Yeah. Second goal was a penalty. I haven't seen the third goal.
I just saw the third goal. It was a really good header at the far post. Floating cross. He gets in the far post and smashes it with the head at the near. So a bit of a range of goals this time round. And
he is growing and growing and growing towards the end of this season. When push comes to shove and the team have really needed him in the playoffs, he has stepped up, man.
Yeah, 2 hat tricks in 2 playoff games, so can't complain. And as well, as you say, they won 7-1 in a playoff. Oh, I think they just scored the other team, Breda. It's 4-1 now. That's gutting.
Yeah, that's what I said, 4-1.
Oh, 4-1, because it was 4-0. So they have still got 20 minutes to save themselves.
Yeah, they need 2 goals to go through. 1 goal. I don't know if away goals count or anything like that, but
I'm assuming 1 goal gets to extra time, but I don't know. Yeah, so they won 7-1 in one of the early playoff rounds where he scored a hat trick. And after being 6-2 down, to mark that comeback with another hat trick, literally leading it himself, is incredible. So really, really good. And that thing takes it in all competitions now to 16 goals, I think.
Yeah.
So that's pretty impressive, isn't it?
It is impressive for Troy, and he's having the best season of his career so far. And maybe there is life in Troy Parrott. We'll have to see. We'll have to take a look at him in pre-season. Obviously, we had a little argument saying Troy Parrott or Dane Scarlett, who's ahead. But I think it's clear, to be honest. It's Troy.
At the moment, it is. Well, he is a few years older, but still, I think he is ahead.
Yeah. But look, very impressive stuff from Troy Parrott. Back-to-back, 2 hat tricks in the last 3 games for him in the playoffs. A goal in between that from the penalty spot. He seems to be dynamite from the penalty spot as well. But look, we'll have to wait and see till the end of the game if he can get another goal to really spur them through and keep them in the division. Because if he keeps them in division, I mean, it'll kind of be like single-handedly he's done it.
Yeah, literally. And as well, with the goals he scored in the league campaign, which have been very important for them, and he's gone on a great run. So he's had a massive. I think they have him to thank, I think, if they were to stay up, which is really great to have that kind of pressure on his shoulders and thrive under it is very, very impressive. So I'm really happy for Troy. And hopefully these are the signs now of him starting to fulfill the potential that we all hoped he had.
Last but not least, let's talk about Hugo Lloris. He's done an interview with the La Parisienne, and it says Hugo says he was pushed out at Tottenham during the final few months of his time at the club. He says Tottenham were coming to an end of a cycle, and so was I. I knew that Tottenham wanted to recruit younger players, especially in my position. Summer was approaching, and I was no longer part of the plans. When the championship resumed in August 2023, the coach informed me that I was no longer to enter the field. I would only be a training player. I was pushed aside, and I had become transparent. I mean, it's a bit weird, these comments to me, because it was him himself that was saying, he did a whole video, didn't he, saying he wants to leave, he wants to go for a new challenge, and that he's going to help Spurs find his successor for the next 10 years. And then he rejects all these deals, doesn't he, in the summer, ends up staying, and then it seems like he feels like he was pushed aside when he was the one saying, I want to leave.
Yeah, there's one thing being pushed aside, I guess. There's another thing, maybe a respect for a player who's been here over 10 years. And you should respect the fact that even though he hasn't got his move, he's still, a keeper who's fairly competent, who maybe should be second choice, I guess he's feeling. Obviously, he realised that Vicario is going to be number 1. We signed him for a reason. He's our main keeper. But maybe the fact that he was club captain. He didn't even get in on the bench over someone like Fraser Forster, who he was number 1 to last season. And maybe he felt like, and also he was included in the squad. So on that basis, should he not even be considered, I guess, to be our sub keeper or for cup games if he is available, just out as a mark of respect? Maybe that's how he's feeling. I do think he should realise that once you want to leave and you've made those your intentions clear, we're ready to move on from you. And just because you rejected he rejected those bids from other clubs who were going to sign him, and just because he didn't get the move he wanted, I guess doesn't mean we still haven't moved on from him in our planning, and that is the case, and that's probably why Ange was never really going to consider him again, because he probably told Forster, I'm guessing, look, Fraser, you're going to be my number 2. Hugo's off. We know he's going to find a club, and you're going to be my number 2. And just because Hugo doesn't find a club, does that mean he should then go automatically above Fraser when he's been told he's going to be number 2 going to new season? So I think there's 2 ways of looking at it, but I think maybe Hugo just doesn't feel great about it. But I don't know if he holds any resentment. That's not what I get from the interview, but it just feels like it's one of those awkward situations, I feel.
Yeah, it must have been awkward for him just coming to training every day, just seeing life go on as the club, and he's just kind of like, I don't know, just sat there on the side pretty much. I mean, Vicario did say like Hugo was a big help to him, and helping him settle in and all this kind of stuff. And he did an interview when he first went to America, and he was talking very well about the club and the journey he's been on with the club. So maybe these quotes are just taken a bit out of context.
Well, look, from Hugo's point of view, he 6 months ago, 6 months before the end of the 6 months before he tried to leave, he was starting for France in the World Cup. He actually had a very good World Cup, didn't he? So after he's not got his move, he'll probably feel like he's still good enough to be number 2. He'll probably feel like he's still better than Forster. So the fact that he's been told by Ange you're not going to be even considered for selection, he might feel a bit bad about that situation. Feel like that won't be for a quality reason, is it? He'll probably feel like I'm better than Forster, so I should be at least considered. So I understand his frustration, but we've moved on from him, and that was reality.
Yeah. Anyway, that is your Tottenham update for today. Let me know your thoughts regarding all the news stories that we've brought to you today. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.